the defendant, Mr. Raymond Tenzing. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we will adhere to a 9-to-1 schedule once a jury is selected. That may go a little bit over at times, but 9-to-1 are the general time frames. Once deliberations begin, and what that means is once the entire case has been presented to you, if you are a juror and you are asked to make a decision, once those deliberations begin, you will be sequestered. What that means is that if you are not able to reach a verdict at the end of the day, you will be housed in a hotel paid for by the county overnight. You will not be permitted to return home that day. November 18th is the latest, and I mean the latest, we expect this trial to go. We would all be shocked if this trial were still taking place as of that date. The lawyers expect to have the case to you sometime in the first couple of days of the week of November 7th. Is there anyone who, since responding to your subpoena, has discovered a personal problem that has come up, something along the lines of a health problem, an infirm or sick family member, or a vacation you forgot about it? Okay, what is your juror number?
91.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, in the back row. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Just your juror number, I apologize. 67? Yes. Very good. Anyone else? Very good. 85, thank you, ma'am. Okay, just sit tight. I just want your numbers right now, folks. Okay? Is there anyone who simply cannot be sequestered once deliberations begin? We are not guaranteeing that you would have to be sequestered, but if deliberations went into the overnight, then you would be. Very good. Anyone who cannot serve until November 18th at the latest. Again, I would be shocked if it went that long. Yes, ma'am. Number 61? Okay.
60.
Okay.
90.
90? Okay.
110.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
56.
56. Okay. Anyone else? Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read some admonishments. They apply to you as prospective jurors and if you are selected to be on this jury. Remember, members of the jury, it is important that you be fair and attentive throughout the trial. Do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence. Do not form or express any opinion on the case until it is finally submitted to you. It may be difficult for you to understand why you may not discuss this case among yourselves until it is finally submitted to you. It would be unfair to discuss this case before receiving everything necessary to make your decision. You should explain this rule prohibiting discussion of the case to your family and friends. When the trial is over, you will be released from this instruction. At that time, you may, but are not required to discuss the case and your experiences as jurors. Until that moment, you must control your natural desire to discuss the case both here and at home. Do not talk with the attorneys, the parties, or the witnesses during the trial. Likewise, the participants in the trial must not talk with you. If anyone should attempt to discuss this case with you, report the incident to the court or to the bailiff immediately. You may not investigate or attempt to obtain additional information on this case outside of the courtroom. It is highly improper for any one of you to attempt to do so. You are instructed, it is an order, that you not read, view, or listen to any report in the newspaper, radio, or television on the subject of this trial. Do not permit anyone to read or comment upon them to you or in your presence. Such reports may be incomplete and are often inaccurate. You may only consider and decide this case upon the evidence received at the trial. If you acquire any information from an outside source, you must report it. Any violations of these orders may require a new trial, which is expensive for all concerned and may result in criminal prosecution of the people involved. Ladies and gentlemen, this includes social media. Do not Facebook, post, tweet anything about your involvement as prospective jurors in this case. If during the trial you have a personal problem, you may explain the matter to the bailiff, who will inform me. The courtroom staff are anxious to assist you with the conveniences of the courthouse and to make your service here comfortable. However, please do not ask the courtroom staff questions about this case, the witnesses, or the evidence. Please understand that any question of this nature must be passed on to me for a response. I will remind you of these instructions at each recess. If overlooked, however, they nevertheless apply to your conduct throughout the trial. Those people who have expressed a problem with the scheduling or some other issue are going to be asked to remain behind in the courtroom. The rest of you will return to the courtroom where you were housed previously to fill out the questionnaire. I will remind you, the oath that you took applies to that questionnaire. Thank you all. Anything on behalf of the state? Anything on behalf of the defense? Very good. All rise for the jury.
Brad, can you hold on 1 second? Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen in the back, for ease of discussion, I'm going to ask that you join your fellow prospective jurors in the jury box. You're fine right there, ma'am. we'll go ahead and start with you, ma'am. What's your juror number?
85.
No, I'm sorry, the woman in front of you. That's okay, you're fine. Yes.
I'm her mother, I'm her guardian, 85.
Gotcha, you're here together.
Right.
All right. Okay. Then yes, ma'am, tell me what your issue with serving is.
She honestly, I'm her guardian.
You're fine.
She has a guardian to take care of all of our affairs. She's not capable of understanding, receiving really child.
I
She's
see.
not able to give it complete, unbiased determination. And I'm her guardian and I'm handicapped and I have to bring her back where she does not travel alone. She has to have, private, transportation wherever she goes.
Okay, all right.
That's
That's
fine.
fine. Oh, I don't need documentation. You're fine. Thank you, though. You could go ahead and have a seat, ma'am. Just sit tight for a minute, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. Okay. Yes, ma'am. 60, okay.
My work will only take for 10 days.
Okay.
We work, 40 weeks, but that is the only thing we do.
Okay. Okay. And it would be a financial hardship for you to not be able to collect that salary, okay? Yes, ma'am. What's your juror number? Okay.
I know I work days for 2 weeks, but I'm not sure beyond that. Plus, I'm tutoring in elementary school, and I always get tutors, substitutes, so when I'm not there, or if sub isn't there, when the children, work able to get us so that instruction.
Okay. So it's a financial hardship plus an obligation that you don't want to fall by the wayside. Fair enough. Okay. Yes, ma'am. What's your juror number?
91.
Okay.
I had a child who just released from the hospital on Friday and requires supervision. Can't really count on anybody else to do it right now.
Okay. Fair enough. Yes, sir.
Yeah, 110. Your comment about the trial possibly going to be 18. I don't know if that would be a hardship on my employer to have any way for that long. Yes, I hope it would be. But anyway, that just hit in my ear.
Okay. Okay. So it's something that you are concerned about but don't know for a fact that it's a problem.
Yes, for me personally, it would not be.
For you personally, it would not be. Okay. Okay. Very good. By law, your employer is required to allow you to serve. Will you still get paid? And if you weren't, not to pry into your personal affairs, if you were not paid, would it put you in a difficult situation?
I would be okay.
Okay,
Not
so,
be an issue.
okay, so knowing that your employer by law cannot punish you or necessarily have a problem, frankly, with you serving, are you okay with staying?
Sure.
Okay. And you were 110, correct? Okay, very good. Back.
61.
Thank you.
I'm site coordinator with the IRS program called Tax Council for the Elderly.
Okay.
I'm site coordinator for 4 sites. And my district, I told them the 2 weeks I couldn't be there for district meetings, so they said about the third week, it's on the 17th. And also, we're getting new software this year. And I've got like 15 people report to me, I think there's like over 600 returns. And I volunteered to be assistant volunteer instructor on the 14th regarding this new software. So it's all volunteer, but it's all an obligation to my seniors.
Understood. Okay, okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have scoliosis really bad in my back, both on my leg, and plus bursitis in my hip. And I'm supposed to, schedule for that physical therapy
Okay.
3 times
3 times
a week.
a week. What's your juror number?
67.
Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
90.
Mhm.
My work only pays for 10 days.
Okay. And it would be a financial hardship for you to not be paid beyond those 10 days?
What exactly would qualify as
You can't pay your bills.
I mean, it's like having to I'd have to defend my emergency fund.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. Council approach? Just sit tight, everybody. Juror number 110. I'm going to, just to be clear, to ask, you are willing to stay?
Yes.
Very good. You are not asking to be excused? Very good. The rest of you are excused from jury service. You will go, Mr. Knoll will take you back down to the 4th floor, check in with Mr. Seitz's office. I suspect you'll be released from any future service at this point because you were summoned just for this case. We do thank you for your time and your patience and attention today. Thank you all for being here. Juror number 110, just sit tight. Yes. Do you know from what room these came from? Sorry. 5:30, okay. Yes, Deputy Cobb, are you able to escort Juror 110 back to room 530? Thank you much. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. You may be seated. I do want to make a record, because we have done these excuses off the record. With the group number 1, we excused 9 jurors. On our current paperwork, they are jurors number 7, 8, 35, 46, 37, 40, 3, 13, and 33. No objections from the state for dismissing those jurors? Very good. No objection? Very good. Same with group number 2 that we just had. Jurors number 91, 67, 85, 61, 60, 90, and 56 have all been excused with no objection from the state, correct?
Yes.
No objection from the defense?
Correct.
Very good. Thank you. This, off the record, this next group, Mr. Seitz asked to bring in juror number 200 and something because she is a child that gets off the bus at like 2:15 and nobody's available to get the child. He'll tell us what number she is when she comes in, so he's pulled her into this group.
Last delay was they were taking the smokers at this moment. Because they were all in the hallway.
Fair enough. rise.
And you follow me. Two right here, and sit in those seats, and then
You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to jury service in the Hamilton County Court of Common Pleas. My name is Megan Shanahan, and I will be the judge presiding over this trial. Can you all hear me? Very good. It is very important to everyone involved in this case that you be able to hear and understand everything presented here during these proceedings. If at some point you cannot hear us, please do not hesitate to raise your hand. If I don't respond, just speak out and say, "Excuse me, get my attention." Also, during the jury selection portion of the proceedings, counsel and I may ask you questions. You do not have a microphone, so please use your stage voice and speak up so that we can hear you and so that the court reporter can record what you say. Thank you for your presence here today. We recognize that each and every one of you is making some sacrifice to be here. It is the court's intention that your service as jurors or prospective jurors be a rewarding experience, even though the monetary compensation is minimal. Service as a juror is one of the most valuable civic duties you can perform. Trial by jury is one of the most valuable rights that we possess. Your participation in this process contributes greatly to the fair and equitable administration of justice. You have been summoned as prospective jurors in a felony criminal case captioned "The State of Ohio versus Raymond Tenzing." A criminal case begins with an indictment. An indictment informs a defendant that the state has charged him with one or more offenses. Each count of the indictment asserts a separate charge. The indictment is not evidence in that the defendant committed any offense. The defendant, Raymond Tenzing, pled not guilty to the indictment, and that includes each and every count in the indictment. His not guilty plea denied the charges and requires the state to prove the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. The law presumes that the defendant is innocent unless and until the state proves the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Jury service may be strange to you, so a short explanation is in order. Those who participate in a trial must do so in accordance with the established rules. That is true of the witnesses, of the lawyers, and of the judge. It is equally true of you as jurors. The lawyers present the evidence according to the rules. The judge enforces the rules and determines what evidence may be admitted. You collectively as jurors will be the sole judges of the facts. the credibility of the witnesses, and the weight to be given to the testimony. You will receive the facts from the witness stand. Instructions as to the law will be given to you by the court, and it is your duty to accept and apply the instructions as given to you. The plaintiff and the defendant are entitled to jurors who approach this case with open minds and who agree to keep their minds open until a verdict is reached. Jurors must be as free as humanly possible from bias, prejudice, or sympathy, and not be influenced by perceived ideas either as to the facts or as to the law. A trial starts with the selection of a jury. As prospective jurors, you will be questioned to determine your qualifications for this case. These questions are not designed to pry into your personal affairs, but to discover if you have any knowledge of this case or any preconceived opinion which you cannot set aside, or if you've had any experience in your personal or family life that may cause you to favor either party. These questions are necessary to assure each party a fair and impartial jury. You are undoubtedly qualified to serve as a juror. However, there may be something that could disqualify you for this particular case. Since this is an important part of the trial, you are required to be sworn before questions are asked. Understand that this oath applies to the questionnaire that you will receive in a few minutes to fill out. I will ask all of you to please stand and raise your right hand. Okay. You do solemnly swear or affirm that you will truly and fully answer all questions put to you by the court and counsel in this case now called for trial. In this you do so, strike that. In this you do as you shall answer unto God and under the penalty of perjury. Please say, I do. I do. Very good. You may be seated. I will introduce you to the parties in this case. As I introduce you, please stand for a moment so the prospective jurors can see you better. Representing the state of Ohio is the county prosecutor, Mr. Joseph Dieters. Along with Mr. Dieters are his assistants, Mr. Rick Gibson and Mr. Mark Pietmeyer. For the defense is Mr. Stuart Matthews. Joining the defense next week will be Miss Gwen Callender and the defendant, Mr. Raymond Tenzing. Ladies and gentlemen, once a jury is selected, we will operate on a 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. schedule. That is slightly flexible, but that is the schedule we intend to keep. Once deliberations begin, and what that means is once the entire case has been presented and the chosen jury is asked to deliberate to a verdict, those jurors will be sequestered. What that means is if you are unable to reach a verdict in the first day, you will be housed in a hotel, and that could go on for a period of time. We expect this trial to take until November 18th at the very latest. That includes deliberations. Frankly, nobody is expecting that it goes that long. The lawyers have agreed. They expect to submit the case to the jury early in the week of November 7th. Is there anyone who has a personal problem that has come up since you responded to your subpoena, whether that be a health problem, an infirm or sick family member, a vacation you forgot about? And when I ask this question, I'm going to ask that you just give me your juror number for right now. Anybody in the box? Yes, ma'am. Your juror number? Very good. Okay. Anybody on that side of the room in the back row? Yes? 238. 238? Okay. Yes, sir, in the front row. 148. 148? Okay. Anyone else on that side of the room? Very good. Anyone on this side of the room? Yes, ma'am, in the front row. I'm sorry? 146. Yes, ma'am.
138.
138. Yes, ma'am. Sorry?
116.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
124.
Anyone else? Very good. Is there anyone who simply cannot be sequestered once deliberations begin? Is there anyone who can't serve until November 18th at the latest? And again, I will stress, I would be shocked if it took that long. Yes, ma'am?
When 17,
Those who have expressed an issue and have given me their juror numbers will remain here in the courtroom with us. The rest of you will be taken by Mr. Knoll back to the room from whence you, excuse me, Mr. Seitz, I keep saying that, back to the room that you came from. You will be provided a questionnaire. Understand again, you are under oath when filling out that questionnaire. And before I go, I'm going to give admonitions. This applies to all prospective jurors, those that remain behind and those that go back with Mr. Seitz. Members of the jury, it is important that you be fair and attentive throughout the trial. Do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence. Do not form or express any opinion on the case until it is finally submitted to you. It may be difficult for you to understand why you may not discuss this case among yourselves until it is finally submitted to you. It would be unfair to discuss this case before you receive everything necessary to make your decision. You should explain this rule prohibiting discussion of the case to your family and friends. When the trial is over, you will be released from this instruction. At that time, you may, but are not required to discuss the case and your experiences as jurors. Until that moment, you must control your natural desire to discuss the case both here and at home. Do not talk with the attorneys, parties, or witnesses during the trial. Likewise, the participants in this trial must not talk with you. If anyone should attempt to discuss the case with you, report the incident to the court or to the bailiff immediately. You may not investigate or attempt to obtain additional information on this case outside the courtroom. It is highly improper for any one of you to attempt to do so. You are instructed, it is a court order, that you not read, view, or listen to any report in the newspaper, radio, or television on the subject of this trial. Do not permit anyone to read or comment upon them to you or in your presence. Such reports may be incomplete and are often inaccurate. You may only consider and decide this case upon the evidence You may only consider and decide this case upon the evidence received at the trial. If you acquire any information from an outside source, you must report it. Any violations of these orders may require a new trial, which is expensive for all concerned and may result in criminal prosecution of the people involved. This order includes going on to social media. Do not go on to MySpace, Facebook, tweet anything about your role as a prospective juror in this case. Do not do any type of social media research on this case. Do not do any online research, nothing like that. If during the trial you have a personal problem, you may explain the matter to the bailiff, who will inform me. The courtroom staff are anxious to assist you with the conveniences of the courthouse and to make your service here comfortable. However, please do not ask the courtroom staff any questions about the case, the witnesses, or the evidence. Please understand that any question of this nature must be passed on to me for a response. I will remind you of these instructions at each recess. If overlooked, however, they apply to your conduct throughout the trial as prospective jurors and if you are selected as jurors. Those who had expressed a problem, please remain behind. The rest of you will return with Mr. Seitz. Thank you. Always. What? Okay, new juror? Okay, just sit tight.
Am I good?
You're good, sir. Thank you.
may be seated. Those jurors in the back of the room, if you could please come up to the jury box just for ease of discussion. Okay, now juror 153, you had not raised your hand, but then you wanted to be added onto the list. Go ahead and tell us what your problem is.
I work for the university system, and I
Okay. Would those two facts create a problem for you to serve in this case? Okay. Yes, ma'am, what's your juror number?
152.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
I'm an old employee with the University of Cincinnati, and it's extremely difficult for me to say what the information flow presents in this case. And in addition, I recently have received on Friday,
This Friday? Okay. Would it just be for this Friday? Okay. Okay. Yes, sir, what is your juror number, 148?
48.
Yep.
I'm a salaried employee. I've got 0 time off, and my work is not compensated for my allowance to be here.
Okay, and it would be a financial hardship for you?
But I was actually supposed to be over there, but I got to it, but I have no time to do it.
Okay, very good. Juror 238?
238, same thing. My work is not compensated to be on, I have no time left. I also have a past conviction over it.
Okay. Do you know if it's a felony?
It's a felony. I just got my summons yesterday because he seems to go on my dress.
Oh, okay. All right, we appreciate you responding to it. 117? Okay.
I'm a teacher at Fairfield City Schools, and being on that phone for the board of students, to be judged on the process, because we have short
Okay. Yes, ma'am, in the back row. Your juror number?
138.
Okay.
My brother was just diagnosed with cancer in the hospital. We don't know how long he's going to be around. And so if I get in the case, something happens, you don't know.
Understood, ma'am. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am, what's your juror number?
116,
Okay.
well, I had previously planned a trip for November 3rd.
Okay.
And another reason, I don't know whether it would mean anything or not, but my son is a police officer, and I do have prior knowledge.
Okay. Would the November 3rd trip be over the course of several days? It's not just on November 3rd, is that what you're telling me?
Well, it's up and back,
Okay.
but it's, you know.
You wouldn't be here November 3rd at all?
Right.
Okay, very good. Yes?
146,
Uh-huh.
I have a 4-day trial.
Okay.
Custody.
Okay. This Friday?
Yes.
Is there any other, if we were not in session this Friday, could you not serve or could you serve?
It's what?
If we didn't have court this Friday, I'm just going to tell you, we're not going to have court in this case this Friday. Okay. So is there any other issue that you have with serving on this case? Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
Since I was 7, my father-in-law was diagnosed with cancer prior to being surgery. My wife and my brother, my wife had asked me to be around surgery will take place early next week.
Okay. 124, right? Is that your number? Okay. Okay. Very good. Counsel approach. All right. You know, Mr. Sites, hold on a minute, because I'm gonna have you take some folks back with you, so you can kill two birds with one stone. Okay. Jurors number 152, 146, and 153. You are going to be asked to return with Mr. Sites to fill out the questionnaire. You are still a prospective juror in this case. That does not mean you will definitely serve, it's just that you still have a possibility of serving. The remainder of you are excused from jury service. Mr. Knoll will take you back down to Mr. Sites' office. We appreciate your time and attention and your patience today. Thank you. All rise. We've got 152, 153, and 146 are going with you. Yeah, no, that's fine, because, yeah, we don't need you.
Now, or just have them come back with the next group?
Now.
Okay. 152, 153, and 146.
Mhm. And the rest of you go with Mr. Knoll. Yeah, out the back door.
146.
Okay. Sure. Who was that?
She had a trip on, oh, that's a third, I'm sorry. Yeah, trip, yeah.
He's bringing down somebody from this just recent group, it's 113. Same.
Okay.
His ad-
Okay. We're okay. Just lip syncing.
Just for the record, gentlemen, number 238, who's actually on a different form here, has been excused. Number 148, 138, 116, 124, and 117. No objection from the state? No objection from defense? Very good.
And if you just wanted to go have a seat in your chair.
You can actually just stay right here. That's fine. You're fine. You're juror number 113, correct?
Yes.
Very good. All right, it's my understanding that you're having a hard time with some hearing? Okay.
Yep.
So it would be difficult for you to serve on this jury, obviously. Did you have a hard time hearing the instructions?
Most part understanding that,
Okay,
that the rule was made based.
very good. Is there any objection? Any objection? Very good. Sir, you're excused from jury service. I'm going to ask Mr. Sites to take you back down to his office just to be released. That's what Tim has been doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's 113.
113,
Do you mind if we go up further?
not at all. Absolutely. Take as long as you need. We'll all break if you let whatever deputies in the next courtroom know to hold it till we indicate otherwise. Me too.